Thank you, Jack. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all. I want to make sure we stay on track for the workshop that is coming, or the first panel on mental housing. But I do have some opening remarks. First of all, welcome to Bend and to Oregon. If you haven't been here before, we'd love to have you here. Thank you to the Western Governors Association for allowing us this option. You know, when they reached out and said we'd like to do one of the Brand West workshops in Oregon, I said absolutely. And the more I thought about it, there are a lot of great things happening in our state. Being here in Bend, in one of the fastest growing parts of our state, with a set of local government leaders and community partners who have just been in on this issue from day one to take advantage of every option they've had to try to do new things to meet the housing needs of our community. That's why we're in Bend. It's also gorgeous, but the people here in Bend are doing great work. So I'm glad we're here. Just to say briefly about WGA, it is truly a pleasure to hang out with the other governors across the West and talk about issues that affect all of our states. Housing is a nonpartisan issue. To be able to sit together and say, what are you dealing with? Here's what I'm dealing with. We've got to figure this out together and have a unified voice to talk to the federal government to give us some more help, whether that's policy flexibility or frankly, straight out cash to get more housing developed. Michelle Lujan Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, is a fantastic advocate for housing. I'm glad we're focusing on housing. It is absolutely necessary. And what I would say about WGA, and I'm glad we're also doing some webinars and things like that, they're going to do a really helpful report. Sometimes you go to these things and no one ever does follow up. The workshops and everything and all your input and the discussions over this afternoon and into tomorrow are going to go to a really good spot that can be shared with everyone to continue to build on best practice and frankly give us all some new ideas to how to deal with the scale of the issue, which is our housing supply challenge across the West. So it's well worth your time being here. Please stay participating. Unfortunately, I can't be here tomorrow. I so want to stay and walk out with you, but I cannot do that tomorrow. So you have me for the rest of the day here. So, no surprise what we've heard on the road. You know, I visited every county in our state last year, or in my first year, visited all the tribal nations last year. Housing is an issue across our state, urban, suburban, rural, frontier. We all have a housing supply issue. And the most damaging result of that is we have a large number of folks who are experiencing homelessness. But there is a plan. There are things we can do. We have to stay focused. We have to learn from what works and keep on going. We'll be having a panel here on middle housing, one of my favorite topics, to talk about this. But just briefly, for those of you who aren't from here, even for you Oregonians in the room, and there are a lot of experts here, let's remember where we've been. I've kind of been at this for 9 years, it feels like. 2016, we talked about annexation and, construction excise taxes. And then we moved into ADUs. Remember the ADU fight in 2017? And then we moved into the 2019 legislative session and we talked about housing needs analysis and middle housing for the whole state. We kept moving forward with more tweaks on those things, more investments, making sure that it's not enough to live up to Goal 10. For those of you who aren't Oregonians, Goal 10 is part of our land use system that says we must have adequate housing. We are trying to actually stay true to our land use system and make sure people all have the housing options that they need. The legislature in the last 2 years have been very helpful, additional investments for infrastructure and things that we need to get new construction on the pathway, and new tools like specialized use of expansion of urban growth boundaries for additional land, and the Housing Accountability and Production Office out of the state to say, we have good things on the books, let's streamline this, let's break down the red tape and get things built. And going into the next session, the session is just starting. You will see more on the table on housing production, investment strategies, and we don't have all the ideas. So if we have new ideas, we will take those up too. Because we have a supply problem. We don't have enough housing. That affects our economy. It affects our health. It affects who we are as a state. And I know that we can get it done, that we can get more housing built. What's great about being here in Bend is the innovation we're going to see and really talking about different ways to get to home ownership. Because if we're really, at the end of the day, providing that option for someone who can have that home in the long term, it is around home ownership. And I'm excited about the coalition here in Oregon that's working on those things. We got to figure out how to pay for some of this, but we can do it because we have to. And so I'm very excited about everyone who's here today. we believe in a future where people will have the housing they need. And Oregon is on a great path. I think the next year or two is just going to see all the work we've done over the last 9 years really like bloom. So let's make it happen. So glad you're here today. And with that, I'm going to stop because I think we're going to move on to the panel on mental housing. So.